Our second speaker will be our fellow Pentti Haddington, and he describes his personal academic discipline as linguistics meet interaction studies, linguistics meets sociology, and humanities meets traffic research. And his academic passion is that he wants to be able to show to fellow researchers and the general public why it is so relevant to research and to understand how people use language in everyday situations. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Anne-Birgitta. Hi, everybody. I'm a linguist and a conversation analyst. I study what people do in real-life situations and how they do what they do. I study how people use language, gestures, their body, objects, and technologies for interacting with each other. Recently, I've been doing research on how people interact in cars. One of the things that I've studied together with a colleague of mine, Mirka Rauniomaa from the University of Oulu, is how people use mobile phones in cars, which is a big topic, of course, and important in terms of traffic safety. So the question is, how can humanities, and more specifically linguistics and conversation analysis, contribute to traffic safety? Just a couple of words about conversation analysis as a methodology. We use video recordings of natural and real-life situations as data. We transcribe those data and use them for studying social interaction and action in everyday life. In conversation analysis, we focus on how people talk, use gestures and their body, and the multimodal environment for doing social actions. By actions, we mean, for example, questions, requests, answers, directives, suggestions, and so on. But we do not only focus on actions, but on how actions are lined up into something we call sequences of actions, or activities, actions and responses to actions. This is important so that we can learn how people respond to events and actions, and how they through their responses show how they orient to, recognize, and understand actions, events, and situations around them. It is in this way that everyday life is created and maintained meaningfully, moment to moment, step by step. So, in terms of traffic safety and conversation analysis, what led us to studying mobile phone use in cars? We were intrigued by this finding that different studies across the world show that 2 to 57% of drivers have sometimes used a phone while driving. So this is a combination of very different studies. So why do they do this, even though they know that it's illegal in some countries and dangerous? So what leads to these kinds of situations? We started to approach this question by studying what happens before a ringing phone is answered. Can that moment explain why drivers start talking on the phone even while they're driving? Here's an example from Britain. You'll see it because the driver is sitting on the right-hand side. So, two colleagues are driving home from work. They're talking about the busy traffic when the driver's phone located on her lap goes off. The driver orients to the ringing phone immediately and verbalizes that orientation by saying, "Is that my phone?" And at the same time, she takes the phone in her hand and looks at it. Their conversation about the busy traffic stops. The driver recognizes the area code, so she has looked at the display of the phone and says, "Oh, it's Belfast." She hands over the phone to the passenger and asks her to answer the phone and says, "Can you answer that?" The passenger takes the phone, the driver looks at the passenger handling the phone. The passenger looks at the phone, and the driver advises the passenger, "Press the green button." Passenger confirms, "Oh," and answers the phone, "Hello." So, plenty of things happen before a phone is answered. The phone rings. Orientation is turned to the ringing phone immediately, in very different ways. The driver starts to locate the phone, and this involves trying to find the phone, looking for the phone, and taking the phone in hand. They may, if there's a passenger involved, they may also negotiate the answer. And at the end, the driver handles the phone, answers the phone, which involves looking at the display and pressing buttons. So what's the point? This shows that people act in a particular routinized way when a phone rings. They routinely start a series of actions whose aim is to answer the phone. Answering a ringing phone is thus an expected, preferred, and automatic action, and thus is a strong social routine, even though people know that using a phone while driving is dangerous and in some countries illegal. Being aware of this routine is important in terms of knowledge transfer to the broader society, so that's a response to this morning's session. And it is also possible to develop technological solutions to deal with this problem. Thank you.